Hola, muy buenas tardes, maestras y maestros. Les doy la bienvenida a este nuevo webinar. El día de hoy vamos a tener un ponente. Su nombre es Gustavo Merkel. Él es ingeniero mecánico y fabricante. Comenzó en el mundo de la fabricación trabajando en Ding Fabric en Colombia y Alemania. De regreso a México, cofundó Hacedores Makerspace y ayudó a diseñar y construir el primer Makerspace en una escuela en América Latina. También colaboró como director de programas en Jacarandas Education, donde trabajó para llevar Maker Education a todos los maestros y estudiantes en México y en el extranjero. Ahora es consultor independiente en Maker ED y STEAM. Bienvenido, Gus.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están todos? Muchas gracias.
Bueno, yo los dejo para poder tener tu presentación y nos vemos en un ratito. Mucho éxito.
Perfecto. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Gus. Thank you for the introduction. And today, well, it's going to be I hope it's not going to be very long for you. I hope you learn a lot. And just to clarify before we start, you can write whatever you have in your mind on the chat. I'm going to be trying to pause and reading your comments. I'm going to also ask you to answer some questions. So please feel free to write whatever you want. Anything you see it's worth mentioning, write it down on the chat. Stop me if you need to stop me. I'm going to be writing and switching to the chat. I have a second screen here, so that's a little bit about how we're gonna be working. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna start with this. So here, also, if you have a question about something I said, also please feel free to put it in the chat. Okay. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Please write on the chat if you see the presentation. Hi, everyone. Now you see it. Okay. Hi, Eduardo. Hi, Javier. Greetings to Nayarit, Ciudad Juárez, La Paz, people from all the country. It's very exciting. Hidalgo. Hi, everyone. Okay, so my presentation is called We Make the World. And the idea is that you get a broad view about how we approach the development of products, but more than the development of products, how we as makers find solutions to problems that we face in the world. So the first part of this exercise will be to talk a little bit about the maker world. What is the maker world? What are the makers? And also a little bit about what are the challenges that we are facing as makers. So that's for the first part. In the second part, I'm going to talk about the approaches. We're going to talk about design thinking as a whole. And sometimes it's funny when you ask someone about design thinking, they will tell you their version of design thinking. If someone somewhere tells you, "Oh, design thinking works like this. This is the only design thinking," they're lying. There are millions of ways of design thinking. I mean, how can you summarize thinking? It's very complex. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit of different perspectives on design thinking, and then I'm going to share with you the way I approach design thinking from the maker perspective and also as an engineer. So hi everybody, I'm seeing your comments. Hello to Nuevo León. So I'm going to start with the maker world. Everything started as when we lived in the Stone Age. We were these persons that were facing a very hostile environment. So we started developing tools. We took stones. We also took different materials, and started creating tools that helped us to solve problems. But, and this is very important, we didn't only develop tools out of the materials of the environment, we also developed communication, written, drawn, but also verbal communication. These pictures that you see there of a horse, I always tell my students that's the grandfather of the tutorials of YouTube. Today, our students, young people, when they have a question, they go to YouTube, even to know how to, I don't know, change a light bulb. Well, in that time, the only way that we know and that they knew how people lived was with the cave paintings. People saw cave paintings and they tried to put the way they were living, how they were hunting, etc., etc. Communication evolved very quick. Evolved so quick that we developed a written language. But at some point, the only one who had access to knowledge was very rich people. So let's say you were living in a village, only the king, only the aristocrats, and the church had access to written knowledge. With Gutenberg and the print and the refinement of the print, the knowledge got democratized. More people had access to knowledge. So from that moment on, you didn't have to be super rich to have access to knowledge. You can get a book, right? That democratization of knowledge led to very, very important discoveries. For example, the invention of the Jetro tool. This Jetro tool, this machine that you see there, it was made to help in the fields to plant seeds. This revolutionized the way we used to do farming and created a second revolution because now we had machines. Now we needed less people working in the farms. Then a lot of people were thinking about other stuff, and that led at the end to the industrial revolution. So it's important to see this connection. In the maker world, we see the development of science and technology not as a thing that goes along. It always goes together with communication and social changes. When people started going to the centralized factories, in this picture we see a factory in London, in England. When people started migrating to the cities, it wasn't not only because we invented the steam machine, it was also because it was also changing the way in the way the society was looking. Now, in this point of story of history, we have a new type of society where we have 99% of the people working in a factory and 1% of the people owning the machines. So this model is still present. The only thing that changed is that now the machines are not in Europe. Can you write on the chat, where are all the machines today? Where is the industry centralized today? Where do you see the machines today? You can write it on the chat. Salud. Greetings to Chihuahua, Toluca. So yeah, I'm seeing some, okay, yeah. Today, almost all the factories are in Asia, right? Taiwan, China especially, and exactly. Yes, everywhere, but more centralized in Asia. So if you see, we've been living under the same social and industrial scheme for over 100 years. But 20 years ago, something happened. The internet came along. A lot of historians call the invention of the internet the second Gutenberg. What do they mean by the second Gutenberg? Well, they mean that the process that Gutenberg started, you remember this, going from a society without access to knowledge to a society that could get access through books, was happening again. Another democratization of knowledge. In this particular aspect, changed our life completely. Why? Well, it's easy. Now, you didn't have to wait. Let's say someone in Spain writes a book about chemistry. They have to print the book, ship it put it on a ship or on a plane, and I have to wait. I don't know if I'm lucky, maybe 2 days or something, or if it's by ship, maybe some weeks. I have to wait 3 weeks till the books come. It's possible that in that period of time, the discoveries that I wrote about on the book in chemistry, for example, are outdated. Today, I write something here on my computer, I click enter, and the knowledge is everywhere or almost everywhere available. So you see, there is a second, there's a second democratization. Now the question is, if the first Gutenberg led to agricultural revolution, it led to the industrial revolution, what will happen with the internet? So here you see a surrealistic picture of painting of a factory. This is what we call desktop manufacturing. The idea of a man, woman, working on a desk, and on one side you see the keyboard and the mouse, and on the other side you see the products coming out. For us in the maker world, internet is allowing the democratization of fabrication. And I have to say, I know everybody, we're living a very hard time. But this hard time has also is showing us a lot of interesting things. One of those things is, for example, what happened during the coronavirus pandemic with 3D printers. The idea that 1% of all the people in the world own the machines is changing. Today, with some pesos, you can afford a kit and build your own machine. That all happened with the project of RepRap. So today, thanks to the internet, the way we are producing is changing. So for us in the maker world, the industry is going to be decentralized. We saw it in this pandemic. People all around the world, it's gonna be printing, it's gonna be fabricating in desktop machines their own printers. Sorry, their own products. So that's gonna be one of the shifts. Another thing that will probably change is the way we make products. And I always give the same example. Let's say, let's say cars. If you own a car, you probably own maybe a German car, maybe a Japanese car, maybe an American car, right? All of those cars are not made for the baches, for the famous topes, for the crazy carreteras libres, all of those particular things that we face on the road, maybe the Germans don't have. So some of the advantages of where we're seeing in digital manufacturing is that we can personalize and what we call in Mexico tropicalizar the products to make them more specified for the reality that we live in, right? So that's again one of the parts that is changing. But again, this is still not a reality. I see it still as a utopian idea that we hope and that I see every year becoming more and more and more real. But we face a lot of challenges. We face a lot of challenges. For one, the environmental challenge. We are seeing climate change, and it's changing it all. We saw the fires in Australia a couple months ago. We are seeing the droughts. in California, we're seeing every time more and more and more hurricanes that have never before seen strength. So the problem of climate change is also a product of the way we've been managing industry consumption. So that's one of the big challenges we face. We have also a very big challenge, and that's the low interest in STEM subjects in developing countries. Here we see the distribution in percent of people that study science in the year 2016 in Mexico. And you see that a low percentage of only 4.75% of the students are going to science. Um, as you know, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And we see every year that a lot of people decide another subject than choosing sciences. I mean, in Mexico, we still have 20%, 20.81% of students choosing engineering, construction, and manufacturing. But again, 4.75% in science and computing is very low. And we need a lot of people choosing these subjects. Another problem is this. Another problem is what I'm going to show you in this video. So please pay attention and tell me what you saw on that video. I'm seeing some comments about the statistic. Yeah, you're right. It's not updated. We have to update it. I have more recent numbers, and they're still really low. I can give you the exact number. I writing about why you think that there are a lot of people not getting interested in STEM subjects. We can discuss that further. So about the video that you just saw. So what are you seeing? Yeah, machines are replacing humans. Yes, that's one. In some cases, we can be replaced by robots. Yes, the machines substitute the people's work. Yeah. What I like about this video, someone wrote it. It's Kurzgesagt. It's a really cool channel on YouTube. It's really interesting. What I like about this idea about fighting a job race against robots. That's called automatización in Spanish. Here, I think for me the main point is that we used to think that the automation was going to be just replacing jobs of workers. We saw this smiling machine at the beginning. Oh yeah, we have a machine doing repetitive work. But then they tell you about, for example, we have robots landing airplanes. Almost 80% of everything that a pilot on a plane is doing is being done by a machine. So when you think that, oh yeah, only repetitive work is going to be replaced, that is wrong. A lot of jobs are going to be replaced. They did, for example, an experiment with artificial intelligence, and they found out that an artificial intelligence program is more accurate to detect cancer looking at scans and images than a lot of doctors. So it's not only about machines replacing easy and manual labor. It's also about any job. What's happening now with the pandemic is that a lot of companies are deciding to fire people and get machines because of all the complexity. So, as a philosopher said, you might have heard of him, Alejandro Pisitelli. He always says, we are fighting a fight against robots. We have to learn how to work and how to not be replaced by the robots. And another problem that we face is the percentage of women and girls in science. Here we see a comparison, and it is been growing, the percentage of women in science, but we totally need more girls interested in STEM. We need more women in the science field, and well, again, we can debate about the reasons, but that's one of the challenges that we face and that we also try to address from the maker perspective, right? Um, so about how we are creating this new world from the maker spaces. This is a world map. A lot of us, a lot of makers, we've been creating maker spaces. You heard on my introduction that I helped to create one of the first maker spaces in school in here in Mexico City. But there are a lot of communities working and creating maker spaces all around the world. There's a website, www.makery.info, and they created this map. And there you see over 850 maker spaces all around the world. Uh, I'm also doing my own map because I've been creating school maker spaces for some years, and I already have detected in Mexico, only in Mexico, over 185 school maker spaces only in Mexico City. So again, um, Makery has some numbers. I have others. This is growing, and the idea is that we help people to get interested in science. And now the question is, can we prepare our students to face the current challenges from the makerspace, from our maker perspective? And someone is writing, are we now new obsolete horses? I don't think that, and I'm going to show you why. I'm very excited. I studied engineering, but then I got also interested in education, and we've been constructing this idea, or I've been constructing the idea and the concept of maker ed for myself. So I can show you how different thinkers and philosophers and pedagogues have thought about it. And this idea about the maker approach is not new. We start with Jean Piaget. For him, the principal goal of education was to create men and women who were capable of doing new things. Okay, let's get the machines to do the boring work. Let's get the machine to do the work that nobody wants to do. But we, thinking how Piaget thought we should be thinking, we should be able to create new things. We have to be critical, and we have to be able not to accept what is given to us, but to create new things. Um, Seymour Papert, when he was studying at MIT, at the Institute for Artificial Intelligence, he wanted to know from Piaget, he wanted to create a machine that could learn the same way the kids learn. So he approached Piaget and told him, Piaget, I'm creating machines that will and learn as people. Can you show me how kids learn so I can create machines that also learn that the way the kids do? And Piaget replied, are you out of your mind? I don't like that idea. I'm going to be open to collaborate with you if you help me to create machines that help the kids to learn. And that's the way the idea of constructionism started. For Papert, The role of the teacher was to create the conditions for invention, rather to provide ready-made knowledge. As I always say it, okay, I don't want you to be learning dates. To learn dates, we have a robot called Wikipedia. Everybody has access. With a smartphone, you have access to Wikipedia. They do everything for us. Why don't we better help the students to create their own knowledge? And Marvin Minsky, who worked with Papert on the same artificial intelligence institute, tried to summarize the way that Popper thought. And he did it in this way. The education and the most crucial steps in mental growth were not about acquiring new skills, but acquiring new administrative ways to use what one already knows. And you can see that on the picture. Sometimes I also like to talk uh, um, Paulo Freire in this point. It's not only about acquiring new things, it's also about using, exactly, someone wrote, technology is your friend. Yeah, technology is your friend, technology is your ally, but also you have to learn how to use technology in different ways. Please, I'm not lying if I know that you know what's happening in this pandemic. We've seen concerts over Zoom. We've seen technology being used in ways we didn't imagine. So that's a little bit of what Papert was saying on his principle. We need new ways, new administrative ways of using what we know. Another example that I like to use is, for example, aluminum foil. Normally, you use papel aluminio, aluminum foil, you use it to wrap sandwiches. But what about you use it to make something in electronics? Well, a lot of people have done that. You use the paper, the aluminum foil that you know, and you use it in another way. Um, After Papert, one of his students, Mitchell Resnick, started with this idea of the lifelong kindergarten that I completely agree on and that I love. This idea that we should be learning in the way we learn in the kindergarten, by expressing ourselves, by sharing with others, by playing. And Resnick takes this idea and says that the best way to help people to understand the world is to provide them with opportunities to actively explore, experiment, and express themselves. That's very crucial for design thinking. What I have to say, I love Mitchell Resnick and the lifelong kindergarten because I loved kindergarten, but I hated the shift between kindergarten and primary school. And it's precisely because of this, the part of the expression. All in kindergarten, it's all about drawing, expressing yourself, painting, sculpting, playing with sand, and then suddenly you go to like a military school where you're forced to learn to write, learn to not express yourself, and that's very important for design thinking, as we're gonna see it in a moment. For Resnick, there are 4 points that are very important, and I see them also. Sorry, very compatible with the ideas of design thinking. For Resnick, there are 4 P's in learning. We always work in projects. That's the way we work. As a maker, I'm always working in projects. And this is what we also know as project-based learning, challenge-based learning. The second P is passion. Passion is crucial. If you don't like what you're doing, you're gonna fail. And this is important to go back to the fact why a lot of people are not studying STEM subjects. That's because people haven't found the passion in those subjects. So passion is the driving force. If I'm not passionate about the project, I will work harder. If I'm passionate about the project, I will work harder and longer. Also, we share and work with peers. Peers or pares, we always have to be sharing what we do. First of all, because honestly, as a maker, the coolest thing is to show what you did. For example, yesterday I was using, sorry, I was using recycled bottle caps, like Coca-Cola caps, to melt them and do this. I always love to share it because I get feedback and I learn a lot. In design thinking, sharing, knowing the perception of your audience, knowing what people think is crucial to develop a successful product. And play. We encourage a playful approach to learning. If we play and we experiment, it's going to be really, really different. And just to summarize, oops, this both ideas. Oops, sorry, I'm jumping a lot. I hope you don't get sick. I want to just summarize about these two schools of thought. It's here. Yeah. So both constructivism and constructionism agree in one thing, on one thing. We always construct and create the knowledge inside of our brain. The only difference is that constructionism is more focused on tools, computers, learning on scratch, 3D printers, electronics, etc., etc. Right? And this is exactly the part where I think we have an advantage over the machines. And I want to talk about one of my favorite artists. What you see there on the image is one of the Friedrichsreich Hundertwasser, or let's call him Frid for short. Hundertwasser, he was an artist from Vienna. He was an Austrian artist who lived through the Second World War. And in a way of refusing what happened in the Second World War, he created these buildings. For example, he had a really cool idea about what he called the tree tenant. It was like, how, I don't know how would you translate it into Spanish. It was like the árbol habitante. His idea was that in the buildings we should have a floor of people and a floor of trees. That was because he had a whole idea on how nature could live in harmony with people. But very important for Hundertwasser was also the fact that what happened in the Holocaust, the Second World War, was because we suppressed the people's identity. And I think that's crucial. If we want to work, if we want to work with technology in times of artificial intelligence, we have to be conscious about our individuality. Everybody is different. Maybe for Facebook, we are only numbers. But for us as educators, we are human beings. And he had this really cool idea about the five what he called the five skins theory. The five skins theory, it was this, what you see on the diagram. He said every human being has five skins, and we have to express ourselves in those five skins. The first one is your epidermis, your skin, but it's also who you are. Who are you? What are your values? What are your ideas, etc. The second one is your clothes, what you wear, but it's also your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, etc. The third one is the house you live in, wherever you live in your house, but it also refers to your cousins, to your grandmother, etc. And it goes like that. The fourth skin is the nature, your community, your neighborhood, and the fifth is the world as a whole. If we see human beings with this idea, we see also an urge for us not only to act as individuals, but to act as community. And and a little bit of what he's doing is this. He is, you see there, one of his projects was called the window right or the Fensterrecht. The idea, you've seen those Infonavits, right? You maybe live in one of those Infonavits. I live in a very tall building, and all the windows in this building look the same. So for Hundertwasser, we had the right to decorate our window, and he said every human being has the right to say a human lives here. Sometimes technology is tricky. They're trying to optimize and make everything faster, but in that process, we also lose our identity. So creativity and identity are two key parts that I see as key key parts to fight against the robots and also to work in this new reality. So now we're gonna go to the topic of today, and I'm gonna show you the what I call design thinking. But before, let me show you a video. You can write on the comments what you see on the video. I think you got the idea. Some said telemarketing commercial, infomerciales, as we call them in Mexico, commercial. Someone said morons. Well, yeah, some of them look a little bit bad, but yeah, someone gave the right answer. Some problems. Yeah, all you see here, I love it. Infomercials are the best way to give an introduction to design thinking. They always do this drama. You see the poor lady trying to opening a jar so hard. They scream. The shot you saw was black and white because of course all the problems in the first world are black and white. Oh man, it's so hard to open a jar. Or I always remember of my childhood this commercial where people were cutting like potatoes, and they would cut their fingers, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is so hard." Everything in this world starts with a problem, right? So um, both in engineering and in design thinking, we start with a problem. Let me okay. So for me, what normally people call design thinking, I call it prototype development approach. And I'm combining two ideas. The design thinking was an idea that started by IDEO. IDEO is a company that they designed the iPhone and the iPod. So, I mean, they have a lot of experience with that. But also, IBM has its own design thinking method. Stanford D School has its own. But in Germany, the car manufacturing industry took it and made it or packaged it of course, in a more German way, in a more engineering way, and they created an engineering guideline called the BDI 2020, 2221, called systematic approach to the development and design of technical systems and products. So what you're gonna see today is a mix of both, okay? So we always start with the problem, and now we have to approach the solution. So in the example of the Stanford D School, we have this 5 steps. We start empathizing. We have to understand the problem. I'm going to go to all of these steps one by one, but first I'm going to show you how this framework works. Um, so we start with empathizing, defining the problem, ideating the solution, prototyping the solution, and testing. Remember, in this framework, you see it as a line process, but it's a circle. It's a loop. You're gonna be always repeating yourself, okay? So you're gonna start by empathizing, understanding the problem, and then you're gonna go to all of these steps. I have to say, all of my students have more problems with defining the problem than with prototyping. And that's funny because maybe a lot of people would think, well, finding a solution or building a solution must be hard. But that's not the hard part. The hard part is to really understand the problem. With the idea, the spiral of the creative learning spiral from Mitchell Resnick is something very similar. And that's funny. Kindergarten students are makers and are design thinkers because they imagine something. That's the ideation and definition part. I'm gonna go to the sand and I'm gonna work with Lego. I imagine something in my mind. I can touch it, it's intangible, and then I start prototyping. I prototype, I create my small Lego car. What do I do next? I play with it. Okay, here I've played with a lot of expensive stuff in my life. It's been funny, but I also lost a lot of money. So here, be careful when you play with expensive stuff because you can be on debt for a long time. But it's also good. That's what I love about 3D printers. 3D printers are very expensive machines, but if you have access to one or you build your own, you can play with expensive stuff. So you created a prototype, you played with it, you share it. For me, playing and sharing is also part of that part. And then you reflect on it. The same way here on a test from the Stanford D School, you test it, you write a whole protocol, and then you see what you have to improve. In the learning curve from Resnick, you also reflect on what you did, what went wrong, what what worked, what didn't work, etc. And then you start again. You start by imagining and you start all the spiral again and again. Uh, a comment, our minds are wonderful. Humans are great. We have great capacity for construction. Yeah, we're great. We're great. And if we learn how to work with the robots, we are even greater. So now let's go over to the parts. So again, as I told you, the guideline was made for the car manufacturing industry. And as an engineer, you would, it's funny because I just showed you this really nice spiral, and now I'm showing you this guideline, this boring guideline that looks here. We're gonna work in 3 steps or 3 documents that we have to create. I'm gonna ask you to try to do it on your own. Try to think about a problem that you wanna solve or a product that you wanna do. But I'm gonna show you also some examples. The first thing that I always start with my students is a list of requirements. Again, this first part is sometimes the hardest part, especially, I don't know why, but for secondary school students. They have problems with thinking about what their product limit is. So, for example, um, a student says, I want to create a portable coffee machine. It happened one time. Una máquina de café portable. Okay, the first thing that you have to do is to do a list of requirements. Okay, I want to do a portable coffee machine, but what is the size? Because portable, for me, is something different. Portable is different for someone who is bigger than me. So someone who is 2 meters tall, portable could be this. But for me, portable is this, right? So here, the idea is that as soon as you have in your mind what you want to create, you have to put numbers and you have to put minimum, maximum, or best values. For example, a lot of people, someone is giving me a coffee machine, please send it to me. For example, um, a lot of the things that people that some students say, I want to create a cheap wash machine. What is cheap? You have to be very concise what cheap is, because cheap for someone living in Mexico City, outside of Mexico City, cheap could be 100 pesos, and from someone in the United States, 1,000 pesos could be cheap. Okay, so this is the part where you have to get the students to write down the precise, the it's, you're still not making the product, but you have to put some limits to it. Okay, so you have to say, okay, is this big? Is this volume? It's gonna cost. It has to be. It has to cost more than 100 pesos, but less than 1,000. Okay. All those requirements are important because they are gonna to define your product. Another requirement could be, for example, kids under 3 years have to be able to use it. Why? Because if I don't have that, then I can create a product that only older kids can use. Okay. In order to do this list of requirements, you have to do surveys. You have to go and talk to your customer. You're doing something for kids. I don't know. Again, a small trolley, una carriola. Well, you have to go and ask mothers with kids in that age what are their requirements. Okay. So this part is very, very important. That list is going to be with us all the time. Okay. Yep. Okay. So we are going to have our list of requirements. Now we're going to go to the second part, the function tree. And now, whoops. Now I'm going to give you a minute to draw a bike out of your memory. Please don't look at your phone, don't look on the computer. I'm going to give you a minute on a piece of paper to um, to to draw a bike. You have 1 minute starting now. Draw a bike. 60 seconds. Draw a bike. You have 47 seconds. 47 seconds. 35 seconds. Remember, it doesn't have to be beautiful. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna even see your bikes, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, no, I was riding my bike like 40 minutes ago, so yeah, I have it in my mind. But just draw your bike. 40 minutes. If you're ready, it's fine. I'm gonna give you 10 more seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. Okay, so I've done this experiment with different people, starting from kindergarten students to postdocs and professors. And almost all the people draw bikes like this ones. Okay? So check your bike and tell me if the bike you draw looks like A, B, C, or D. I see a lot of people. So a lot of people done. So we have. Tell me if the bike you draw looks like A, B, C, or D. So for example, the bike D, we have A. It's a bike. We have some D. Oh, let me. I stop. Okay, so D. So we have one D. We have one B, A, C. Okay. Now, now tell me, would you? Let's say I would take your drawing, and I would go to a welder, to a bike welder, and I would tell him, "Can you please draw this?" Who would ride his own bike? Someone wrote a B with umbrella. Would you ride your bike if you had to? I see a lot of C's, a lot of C's. Yeah, C is the most common one. Someone wrote draw someone drew a double bike. Tell me if you would ride your bike. While you think about that, I will show you a video. What would happen if you had to draw the bike you draw? Or sorry, what would happen if you had to ride the bike you draw? Oops. There you see your bikes. Okay, everyone. So for the people who said A, imagine that would have been your fate. So I'm glad you didn't build that bike and you didn't have to ride it. I have to say, I'm 100% sure that I could ride that backwards bike. I don't know why, like you don't have, you can sit on the handlebars, but whatever. Let's go to the next one. Exactly, exactly what he's saying. Our mental models are not always as accurate as we think. First of all, um, congratulations to whoever draw a bike. Someone said he wrote a bike that is even better than all of that. So congrats to all the C's. But yeah, Jay was saying our mental models are not always very accurate. Especially, it's funny because we normally see bikes everywhere. Like I ride mine every day. You have to see bikes every day. I mean, the bike of the tacos de tamales. That's a classic. And what's happening is that in order to save space in our brain, um, it is doing a process called abstraction. And what it is taking a model. You see a bike, but instead of remember the bike with all the details, you only remember the most important details. There is a short story by Borges called Funes el Memorioso. I don't know if you've read it, but it's this idea of a man, of Funes, who's a guy who can't forget. He can't forget. He remembers the shoes his mother was wearing on the Mother's Day when he was 10. So that's crazy, right? Imagine how hard it would be to remember everything. Picasso, coming from the arts, does the same. In these paintings, engravings, sorry, of the bull, the first picture of the bull is a very, very precise, even with shadows, a very precise bull. Okay, this bull has muscles, has eyes, has even hairs. You can even see hairs. But then he starts abstracting. On the third picture, you see geometrical forms. On the sixth picture is totally only shapes. And on the last picture, he's reducing the bull to a small dot for the head, a U for the horns, two U's for the legs, and a small line for the tail. So that process, it's been done in literature, in art, and we also use abstraction for this part. For example, here in this part, we're gonna abstract a bike. So everybody had several points in common. Like you had a lot of difficulties, and everybody draw a different bike, but everybody draw two wheels, right? Everybody draw a handlebar. I hope. Everybody draw a frame, un cuadro. I hope also. But you can abstract a bike to these main points. In engineering, we're gonna abstract to functions. So for example, A would be the steering function. With A, what we do is that we say left or right. Okay? With B, that's the seat, that's to carry us or to carry whoever is riding the bike. With D, D is the part or the function of generating, of pedaling, right? You take human power, pedal power, and you create mechanical motion. And C is translating the circular mechanical motion into linear motion. But all the bikes have the same. And in order to show you that, here are a lot of bikes. So one bike, the famous Vagabundo bike or the chopper bike of the 60s, it has the four functions. My favorite bike, a Trek mountain bike, it has all the functions, but it's made for the mountain. The difference between the Vagabundo bike and the mountain bike is that I have a suspension fork because I'm going to be on the mountain. I'm going to go through the third bike, this small bike that you see here. That's a Brompton folding bike. That means I can fold the bike and take it with me on the metro. What you see here, it's also 4 points. I have a steering, I have a seat, I have the pedaling, I have here the wheels, but the difference is that I can have cargo. I can take stuff around. And as I said, I hope you had lunch already, the king of bikes, the taco de canasta bike. That's the most important bikes, the most important bike ever. It also has the 4 points. Um, so what we're gonna do now is to do small map where we start with the general function and we cut it down into sub functions. So for example, a wash machine needs to do what? Wash clothes. That's the main function. But in order to wash clothes, I need to mix, shake soap and water the clothes. I need to transport water. I need to clean the clothes. I need to retain and keep clothes in water. Like I need a container. So still, I'm not coming to the product. I'm not saying, because that's another thing. All of my students, they want to jump to the prototype. No, we have a problem. Oh, yeah, it's going to be made out of plastic. It's going to cost 10 pesos. Like, wait. You have to define what your product needs to do. Okay. So, what you're going to do here is that you have a main function and you're going to divide into a lot of sub functions. If you take a car, again, I can abstract a car into main functions. I can say somewhere to sit, a motor, lights, etc., right? So this is the idea of the tree of functions, that you have your functions ready. Here, someone is asking for enchiladas. Yeah, I told you guys. I hope you had something to eat. I'm gonna go to the third document that I used. And I don't know why, but it's my favorite one. Is the morphological table. I know, I know that my solution has a main function and a lot of sub functions. How or what are the possibilities to fulfill those functions? Here is where it gets interesting. What I'm gonna do here is the following. I'm gonna do a table where I'm gonna write down all the functions, all the sub functions of my wash machine. In this case, I'm using an alarm, an alarm watch. And let's say an alarm. My problem is I have a hard time waking up. Okay, I never wake up. I'm always late. So I need something to wake me up. The functions of that are, it needs to show time, right? I need to wake up and know, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I need an alarm, something that tells me to wake up. I need to measure time. I need a time machine, not to travel to the past, but to keep track of time. And I need to store energy, right? I need a battery, I need a cable. And then on the other part, I'm going to put the possible solutions. So we're going to go one by one. So how do you show time? With a clock, with clock hands, manecillas, right? Or a solar clock. I put a stick on the floor and the sun is moving and it's also moving. Or an LCD screen, like here, right? Now, I need something to wake me up. A buzzer, like a small electronic buzzer. It's gonna be zzz, a bell. That's the typical one, a bell. Or vibration, like the cell phone. I have another one. Let me see if I can show you that. I have another option for the alarm that I like a lot, and it's from my favorite maker. Her name is Simone Geertz. She's the queen of shitty robots. I'm gonna show you the way she solved this problem. I'm gonna show you the video. Let me just switch quickly. Just give me a moment. Okay. Okay, so you're seeing there. I'm gonna show you how Simone. Don't worry about the sound. I saw that some of you had problems listening to it. I won't put it with sound, but let me see where. Here it is. So this is how it works. So she created an alarm clock that uses a, a plastic hand, and with when the time comes to wake up, it smashes her in the in the in the face. So I mean, if it's not in your requirement that it shouldn't harm you, I guess it's a feasible it's a feasible product. If you want to follow her, go to Simone Geertz on her YouTube. It's a really cool it's a really cool channel. Let me share again with you. So we're back. See her name. If you're asking about the name, Simone Geertz. I see some people are ordering they're ordering their alarm clocks already. It's good. You can build it yourself with some Arduino knowledge. Okay, the third sub function was how it's measuring time, and it can measure time mechanically. You remember with springs that you have to darle cuerda. No, you give it a twist, and then you have more energy stored. With sand, you can use a sand watch, right? Like in the board games, you flip it and it's counting time. You can use a quartz, an electronic way, and then energy, as I said, with a spring, with a battery, or a solar panel. Okay, so what's happening now? Okay, so what's happening now is that um, why it's important to specify these sub functions. I'm going to show you before the video, I'm going to show you what you do now as a developer. What I have to do now is to decide, am I using manecillas or clock hands? Am I using a solar? So I have to connect all the dots. Luckily for us, now there is a field of engineering and design called generative design. And it's fascinating because now I have my list of requirements and my function, and a computer designs for you how the product should look. But how the product should look fulfilling those requirements. Okay, so I'm going to show you this video and we can comment it afterwards. Whoops. Sorry, I went up. It's here.
What if you could come up with thousands of options for a single design without drawing, all of which meet specific goals set by the designer? And from those options, pick the one design that delivers on the most important criteria, the design you couldn't possibly have imagined. This is generative design, a technology that harnesses massive computing power, creating forms with precise amounts of material only where needed, achieving maximum performance while wasting nothing. But generative design can be about much more than simply turning out alternatives. Prototypes can be scanned and equipped with sensors that provide real-time performance data that can be looped back into the design process, so the object, in effect, co-designs itself. And depending on the material and method of manufacture chosen, the software can optimize the design for those choices. In its search for the optimal design, generative design creates complex forms that would otherwise be impossible to make using traditional manufacturing methods. Now, with advancements in material science and the ability of 3D printers to print metal, companies like Airbus can create forms like this airplane partition.
So this is very exciting. Sometimes for me it's still a little bit hard to explain what generative design is, because it looks like I don't know, it's computer generated. But again, for example, if I'm able to define my functions and my sub functions and the requirements, I can let the computer give me options, and that's mind blowing. For example, this coffee cup, right? I have a coffee cup, and the requirement is it needs to hold 500 milliliters of water or coffee, and it has to be made out of aluminum. and has to have and has maximum volume of I don't know 10 by 10 by 10. Well, the computer is going to generate those shapes because, for example, one of the parameters could be reduce or optimize material use. So this is a field that if you teach your students how to abstract their solutions, they're going to be able to put it into a computer and do great things like Airbus and all these companies are doing. I like that a lot. What happens? What happens if my students can't find the solution? Like they have a problem, they say, I'm gonna do a coffee mug, but I don't have an idea. Get creative, and I use the superhero brainstorm. Pick a superhero. I don't know, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, whoever your favorite superhero is, and think how this superhero would solve it. So let's say, for example, a problem is that people don't see me on the street when I'm riding my bike. How would Spider-Man solve that? Well, Spider-Man would take his spider webs and I don't know, maybe hit the cars with the spider webs. I don't know. I know it sounds crazy, but the idea is to start a process of creativity. Thinking like a superhero helps sometimes, and I'm going to show you an example. In 1964, a ship called the AA Kuwait stranded outside of the shore. So it stayed there. It had a lot of equipment and other stuff, and it started to sink. And it went to the bottom of the ship, and no one could take it out. No one knew how to pull it out, to take it to the surface. And Karl Kreuer, was a Dutch engineer. He remembered that he read in one of the Pato Aventuras comic book one time. Whoops, sorry. He read about an adventure where they rescue a ship from the bottom of the sea using ping pong balls, right? So they were squeezing the ping pong balls inside of the ship, and it came to the bottom. Sorry, to the surface, and that's what he did. He created a system, an engineering system using pumps and special balls, and he was able to rescue the ship. So again, like superhero or comic solutions, they might sound crazy, but sometimes they're the right solution. What you're gonna do at the end on your morphological table is to, as I told you, connect the dots. So I'm gonna do, in this case, I have two solutions. First solution is I show time using clock hands. I give an alarm using a bell. I measure time using a mechanical system, and I store energy using a spring. Option one, and you see it down here. Option two, I use an LCD screen, a buzzer. I use quartz to measure time, and I'm gonna use solar panel and a battery for the energy. So I have solution two. Okay. And now we're gonna go to for me, my interesting part, that is prototyping. I don't know if you have any questions. We still have around half an hour of this webinar, so if you have any questions, you can write it down. Someone, Lydia is asking, do you, Gus, do you think there will be a time in which humans will be replaced by machines? Yes, it's called 5th of August 2020. It's happening. It's happening already. Yeah, it's happening already. And I don't know if you have another idea. So I'm gonna go over to the part of prototyping. And as I told you, that's the part that I like the most. Today with prototyping, we are experiencing something super, super amazing. That's we're going from atoms to bits. And I'm going to show you a small video about that. So what you just saw is, I think it's the, yeah, no, it is. It is the smallest movie you've ever seen. It was made by atoms. Every dot that you see is a small atom, and it was made with an atomic microscope. So it's an animation done by moving atoms. And those are the tiny things everything is built around, right? So if you see skin or plastic, everything is made out of atoms. But we are now playing with atoms in a way that we didn't used to. And that's very interesting. And I'm going to show it to you with this beautiful image. I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of the Beatles. I like the Beatles a lot. When the Beatles started, they all used this type of discs. You see the long plays, right? This big long play with the Apple. People say that the Macintosh Apple logo was inspired by listening to the Beatles. So the first long play of the Beatles had around 420 megabytes of information, and it was a physical format. Then it jumped to a digital format. It was digital, but it had a medium, which was the CD. On the CD, we had double, we had 700 megabytes. Then, and I don't know about you, but some years ago, they did this version. They sold all the discography of the Beatles in an Apple. It was like a plastic Apple with a USB stick, and it was 16 gigabytes. And it was digital. I had the files, but I had a medium, which was the card, sorry, the memory stick. Today, we completely forgot about the medium. You don't buy, well, if you're a music lover, you still buy LPs or CDs or whatever. But all of our students, they don't buy CDs anymore. They don't even know what a cassette is. Now they went digital. Now you have the 16 gigabytes, but you have it on Spotify. So you pay to access the music. So what you saw there in the music, it's happening also. We went from atoms to bits. It's happening also in the world of manufacturing. So here, for example, normally you start building something with your hands, and then you sold it, and now we have machines doing that. Now, some of you wrote, I just saw the comment and I liked it a lot. Someone wrote, will we teachers dare to design? We don't have tech knowledge. You don't need it. I'm going to show you how you can design, and it's quite easy. Um, Normally, in digital manufacturing, the framework works like this. You have an idea, then you go to a CAD program, you go to the computer and you design it, and then you go to bits, to the design, and then you go to the atoms and you start building it with a 3D printer. That's what we call computer-aided manufacturing. I told you already, there are 3D printers. They are as cheap as what, 3,500 pesos. So 3D printers are not super expensive anymore, but this will be always the case. So you have the idea, then you have your design, and then you build it, and we're gonna see how it works. So for example, here are some of the ways I start. I always start with a first prototype without without technology. I start using plasticine or wood or something else. For example, here you see that, right? Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna start first with my sketch. Let me start with my sketch. I'm gonna draw whatever I wanna do. Here what you see are secondary school students drawing a small cell phone holder for the bike. So they did that with plasticine here, with plastilina normal. Now they're drawing it. And you see different drawings. There you see the drawings done by the students. Then we go over here. What you see are the drawing, the prototype, and the design of a kindergarten student. He's using a software called 123D Sculpt, and he is first drawing it, now doing it with his hands, and now doing it on the iPad. Another idea is to do a prototype with cardboard. For example, the students made this bike using only cardboard. Another idea was to use, for example, Lego. If you have Legos, you can use them to do your first prototype. As I told you, I like to use wood. So, for example, here what you see is like a bike lock, and what's carrying the motor, it's a piece of wood. So, if you like to work with wood, it's a perfect time to do a prototype. Now we're gonna move over to the 2D design. That's when we start designing. So, for example, here the students developed a lamp. They draw it. They draw it here, and they used a software called Inkscape. It's like Illustrator. So if someone has some knowledge in design, it's Inkscape is the open source version of Illustrator. So they draw on the computer. You see the drawing, and they went to a laser cutter and cut it the pieces. You don't have to own a 3D printer or a laser cutter. You can go to your local makerspace, or you can build it with your hands. You can also build it by hand. So here you see them creating their prototype and soldering, right? If you want to try out Inkscape, you can write down the link there. I'm also going to share with you the presentation and the links. So also don't worry about writing everything down. You're going to have the link to the presentation, okay? So don't worry about that. Okay, so you have that. Also, I recommend you to use Inkscape. It's very good for drawings and design. Here I'm gonna jump here, and now we're gonna go to 3D printing. And first of all, I'm gonna explain you a little bit about the story of 3D printing. The 3D printers, the first ones we knew, of course, there were a lot of universities that had them in the 60s already, but 10 years ago they cost around 1,000,000 pesos at least. They were very, very expensive. But a professor in Sweden started a project called RepRap, where he posted all the plans online on how a 3D printer should look like. So you can download you can download the plans, and if you had some knowledge in engineering and so on, you could build your printer. Mm. So a lot of people did that. One of the things that they did, one of the persons who did that was Brad Pettis, this guy you see on the screen. And what I like about this story is that it shows how we can solve problems but also create products. Brad Pettis started a company called MakerBot. He went to his local makerspace, a place called NYC Resistor, and created the printer you see on the screen. That printer was called the MakerBot. Give me a moment. So the MakerBot is a printer that instead of looking like this, like with cables and everything, it was more user friendly. So he took the plans online and created a product. And it's funny because you have to think, he didn't like, he took something that was free on the internet and created a company around it. Well, he at the end developed the printer you're seeing here, MakerBot. This printer is now one of the most used printers in the world. And in 2013, he sold his company for $604 million. So look, and I always say, I hope that one of my students gets to do something like this. I hope I could do that too, but I don't know. But it would be cool. He took something that was free on the internet, made it better, made a new idea about it, and sold it for $604 million. So, I mean, so you can see that there's something you can do with 3D printers. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to, to 3D model. I'm going to actually show it to you. Let me just change my screen. For those of you who were asking about if it's easy to start 3D modeling, it sounds very. Someone wrote, CAD softwares are very used in the automotive industry. CAD softwares are used everywhere today. So the only thing you have to do is to go to the website is tinkercad.com, and you can create your own account. So you go to iniciar sesión con Google if you want, or Facebook, for example. And now you're going to be here, okay? So you're going to be in this table. So remember when you were a kid, you were playing with Lego, or you were playing with blocks, with wooden blocks. It works the same. I'm going to go to crear un diseño, and I'm going to start from 0. So I'm over here, and I'm going to drag. Let's say I want to build a house, okay? Okay, no problem. I'm going to take a cube, just put it here, and I can move it around. So now you see I have my cube. That's part of the house. So I always say that Tinkercad is the PowerPoint of 3D modeling. It works the same. Remember on PowerPoint, when you want to make pictures bigger or smaller, you click on the object, and then you just make it bigger or smaller, whatever you want. Here, it is important to know that when I click the object, I see the measurements. This is important because CAD software have the how can I say it? The feature that you always refer to a volume or something in the real world. So here, my cube is 25 millimeters wide, okay? So now I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take a roof, and I'm gonna put it here. Oops, sorry, I'm gonna put it here. I just move it around. You can apply that with your students. Someone was asking. For example, I'm going to show you a project that we did about storytelling, where they had to write and design a mythological chimera. a mix of two mythological creatures and create a story about it. So on the first part, they build the Chimera using 3 software, Tinkercad, and then they write a story about it. So I mean, that's just one idea. Oh, someone said, "Lol, Minecraft." That's true, Lord. Yeah, it is. It's actually there's actually a way. If I'm gonna go here to bloques, it takes me to the Minecraft world. So everything is in Minecraft. Or if I'm a Lego fan, I can do the house in bricks in Lego. I can be more accurate, but I can do also Lego. So I can model in Lego too. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to Diseño 3D, right? And I can select both things, and I can merge them, right? So now I want to do a window. I'm just gonna take a cube. I'm gonna take, let's say, the door. So I'm gonna take this cube, and I'm gonna say, instead of solid, I wanna make it a hole. And now, oops, I can merge them. And I have a house. Oh. Okay, so how can you use it, for example, in English? We haven't finished a publication called 3D English, but what we do is that for example, yeah, someone said, Hipólito said, my students enjoy Minecraft. Yeah, like our students get this so quick because they're already building things on Minecraft. You can develop a lot for English using Minecraft, doing stories. I have a teacher colleague who does classes inside of Minecraft. He joins Minecraft and he does, for example, he gives a task in English to his students, and he does that. And I was telling you about the 3D English publication. The idea of 3D English is, for example, introduce colors by build a greenhouse, introduce shapes. You know, what's a triangle? What's a cube? What's a cylinder? Like all of those words. The storytelling part. And there's another thing that I think is very cool. There are repositories. Remember that I was telling you that everything is now digital? What happened with the Beatles? Well, that's happening also with 3D models. I just show you how to start a I show you how to start a model from scratch, from zero. Okay, but what about using someone created already? Well, you can do that. You can go to a website like Thingiverse, and you can check the different models that you have here. So, for example, you can use this, download, change it, and use it again. Oops. Oh, yeah. Alex Perez is saying that's nice, especially in communities where people barely have electricity. It's actually very, very, very hard, but we've done it. We have a project. Let me see if I have the pictures. We work in 4 communities. We work in 3 communities in Chiapas, in Los Altos, and in the Mixteca in Oaxaca. And we've been working with 3D modeling with them. We started a project called 3D Ponics. And what we did is that we 3D printed some models to do hydroponic systems using 3D printing. Let me see if I get the pictures. So the students were, we took a 3D printer. We had to put a very long cable from one of the community centers to the school, but we managed to print these models. It looks like this. You use PET bottles, and you can build your own systems. Let me see if I can find the pictures. Well, maybe I can send it to you. But yeah, it also works in communities. What I was telling you about, I'm going to go back to my Tinkercad, about the storytelling with the creatures. I downloaded one of the models. Like the students have to download, let's say, this Yoda, and they also download another model, and they can merge them. Let me see an example. For example, this one. This one was made out of different parts, right? So this is also very easy, just looking for the objects. I also forgot to tell you, another way that you can do this is very easy. Is you go to Thingiverse, education, and you can go to the subject. So let's say English. Well, you go to Thingiverse and you go to languages, and you can download objects and also lesson plans for your class. Someone was asking on the chat, what happens if you don't have computers? We've done it. We've worked, I told you, in Oaxaca, in Mixteca, in Los Altos, and it also works, of course. And I always say, it's funny. You would say the communities don't have electricity. Yeah, it's true. But I would say that 70% of all the students we work with, public school, in indigenous communities, have cell phones. And a lot of them are on Facebook already. So sometimes we also tend to exaggerate the situation of the communities. But yeah, we can work with our computers. All the first part I show you until this part can be made analog on paper. Let's do it. That's about it. So here you see it. Here are some examples of 3D modeling things that you can do. This is for languages. So for example, I think this is Spanish. They do something about Dia de los Muertos, and etc. So again, if you're interested, there are a lot of ways you can do that. So Thingiverse, let me go back to the presentation. And I don't want to go into this part because that would be if we want to get into electronics, into other type of topics. But I would like to keep talking to you. Like I think that's very rich, and we can also repeat something that wasn't clear or that I didn't pronounce well or that I talked too fast. So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I would give you now time for open questions to review something about the presentation that you would like to talk about. Yeah, this is going to be a democratic science. With a little bit of money, you can reach any level. Yeah, totally. Like I totally agree. I think that's the exciting part, and that's why I'm also promoting the maker spaces in schools, because I don't know when we're coming back to school, but if we go back, I hope we go back to a different school. And why not a school where we all work by projects, learn by projects? I don't know. Another way to apply English, remember that making is also sharing. And I have everybody's making electronics in China. You know, all the products come out of China. But the manuals are horrible. Horrible for the reader, horrible for the users. And if we teach our students to write good manuals, to do good English documentation, that will help a lot. I mean, as a future scientist or engineer, that will help you a lot. Someone said, no, yeah, you can't underestimate people by their context. No. What else? Let me see. Excellent for TBL. Exactly. Yeah, maybe let me just share my screen for a moment. I share all my work on my YouTube channel. I have whoops, we went to my YouTube channel is Gus Merkel. Like, you just type my name and you can find my YouTube channel. I've been making tutorials for years. Sorry about that. I live in a very loud street. So yeah, this is my channel. You can subscribe to my channel. My email is gustavomerkel@gmail.com. So I have electronic projects. I also have product reviews. I have some environmental science projects. This is very good for English. I have this project called Radio Pi that actually was made in communities, and we work. I show students in rural communities how to make their own local radio. And for example, you can see a small video here. I think that's for English. It's great that they do their own program.
Bienvenidos, esto es Radio
So there you see the students had to develop a radio show, and then we use very cheap computers. We created a computer center. This is in Coatecas Altas in Oaxaca, near Jutla. It's like the Central Valley part. And yeah, well, you can see that, and you can comment there. They're making their radio and so on. So you can subscribe to the channel if you want. Please recommend something for preschool. The channel is Gus Merkel. You see it on the screen, Gus Merkel, on YouTube. For preschool, I would say Scratch Junior. Scratch Junior is a great tool. You can put it on a computer. On a tablet, and it's a very cool program. What's the challenge to provide critical thinking in communities to have future scientists in Mexico? That's a good one. It's a very philosophical question. First of all, and from my perspective, is to learn to be critical with technology. We also teach, for example, data science and how to not trust in the data that some people is giving. I think we have to teach our students also not to believe in fake news, in fake science, in pseudoscience. Like, I think the great challenge may be the same social media. Social media is great for gossip. It's great for rumors and pseudoscience. So it is a beautiful tool, but it also are very different. Yeah, we must be prepared for the new era. And also remember, the technology there is there for you to use it to express yourself. That's I think the most important thing. You have to express yourself and use it for your own benefit, and instead of technology just to buy and become a passive consumer, we have to be active creators. Any other question? App for secondary. Can you give me example in a Mixteca community? Well, in the Mixteca, we did a project with electronics using a board called Microbit, and we did sensors to measure water quality. So we Tamazulapan is the name of the community. They have two water sources. We were examples. Yeah. What else? Do you know about a platform that you can use a cell phone? What do you mean about platform? Nelva Rubio. I teach preschoolers with STEAM methodology. What do you think about it? No, I think it's great. I think STEAM is the way to go. We can't afford a society not to get students interested and not interested in sciences. We have to. It's our obligation. It's grad junior with little ones. Yeah. You teaching?
Gus, can you hear me, Gus?
See, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, our time is up for today, but thank you very much. Teachers are thrilled with your presentation. It was amazing. I really loved it.
No, thank you very much. I talk too fast. I love this, so I hope I didn't overwhelm you with information. You have my email. You can also share it with everybody, and you have my YouTube channel. There are a lot of free resources there, and if you have a question, just ask me.
Okay, thanks a lot, and thanks to you. Muchísimas gracias a todos por haber estado con nosotros en esta charla. Nos vemos para el segundo webinar del día de hoy, que va a ser a las 4:10 en la segunda liga que ustedes tienen en su Classroom. Les agradezco muchísimo por todo y aquí seguimos. Hasta luego.